Hi. If you were like me, you would probably read this and got a little disappointed. I made a video called Vecna Eve of Ruin because I really was disappointed with this adventure. It's kind of the capstone of 2014 Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and it fell flat for me.
We'll further explore the mystery of the obelisks that have cropped up in so many of our adventures.
So in this video, we're going to attempt to fix it. Hello everybody, Jordan here, the PH is silent, and we're going to dive deep into this. There will probably be spoilers if you're interested in that. But first, this video is sponsored by Describe, the internet's purveyor of finely crafted box text, but now they have an awesome audio service for tabletop games called Opus. You can stream sounds to others over the web, you can play them at home on your computer, you can send invite links to your players who are participating virtually, you have background audio, monster sounds, music, they're all tagged, all of the audio is tagged with assist with searches, and there's a ton of pre-made playlists. Do you need a tavern? Boom, you got a tavern. There you go. Do you need a crowded area? Boom, you got a crowded area. There you go. You can build your own playlist for a custom auditory adventure. So please check out Describe's Opus today by visiting describe.com/Jordan with a PH in the middle, or click the link down below. And thank you again, Describe. So the first question is, should we even fix this? Like, yes, we can go out and buy this book, but there are numerous other adventures that I would argue are worth running, and some of them I'm going to mention in this video. Rather than trying to buy this and make it work, I would urge you to just play something else. Play a third-party product that is very well treated and loved. And if you want to stay in the Forgotten Realms or Planescape, go to the DM's Guild and buy something from a really good author there. With that being said, there's a lot of hype around this, and I've been thinking about it a lot, so I am going to offer how I would fix this adventure to kind of fit what I was expecting with Obelisks and Vecna and the whole enchilada.
Vecna's reign of terror is just one example of the interconnected storytelling that can be found in D&D.
So, let's dive in. I gotta wear my glasses now because I'm old AF. I don't want to meticulously go page by page trying to say you should run it this way because it just takes too much time and I'm not that kind of a DM, but I wanted to address the problems that I thought the adventure had and then what I would do chapter by chapter to go through that. So if you look at the chapters in this book, there are 11 of them. And you can kind of go through chapter by chapter and we can just make a few tweaks to kind of make the adventure, I don't know, work for me. So the main problems I had with Vecna Eve of Ruin is there was very little Vecna. There was misdirection with casts and there was other things, but there wasn't like a lot of Vecna being scared of Vecna kind of a thing. And I wanted to be scared of Vecna. The second problem I had is they used the Rod of Seven Parts, but it didn't have a purpose. It was, again, like there was no real purpose to gathering the Rod of Seven Parts other than your Cass's patsy, and you did this unknowingly, giving him like the most powerful item, blah, blah, blah. The adventure did not feature the hand or eye of Vecna in any way, and so I wanted to incorporate those two things. And then the last problem that I really had is there was not a tangible problem to resolve. Case in point, we know because NPCs have told us that there is a looming threat of like the universe is going to be undone because of Vecna, but we don't see that happening. There's no ramifications occurring right now. There's nothing really for the players to believe what the NPCs are telling them, and then also to go and stop it. And so I wanted to give the player characters a problem to solve. So here's what we're gonna do. To start the adventure off, I want to let Vecna win. So right from the get-go, Vecna has won. The world has changed entirely. And for some mystical reason we can't really explain until later, your player characters have knowledge of what the Forgotten Realms used to be, but now they're living in a doomed Forgotten Realms.
I gotta sing the Doom song now! Doom, 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 doom.
Now, the cool thing about this is the Doomed Forgotten Realms is already a thing. So if you go to the DM's Guild, there is a very chef's kiss supplement of what happened if all of the major adventures for 5th edition up until the point that they made that. So Out of the Abyss and Descent into Avernus, things like that, Rime of the Frost Maiden. What if all of those happened and nobody stopped them? So like the top of the Sword Coast is frozen over from Arl's magic, and the entire Underdark is filled with demons and fungus from Zagutmoy. It's just bad. Like every catastrophe that happened did happen. And I think you could utilize that as a basis for your players. Let's say they were playing any of the other adventures. They get to a point of, I'm going to go with Out of the Abyss. They stop Out of the Abyss and they're like, man, we did a really good job. And then the next morning they wake up and the sky is just dark. And like they're looking around like, what's happening? What's different? All of a sudden their clothes have changed. It's kind of like that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where there's this like weird alternate timeline that they just snap into kind of instantly. And that's what I want. So the players are like, something is up. Why do we have memories of this, but other people don't have memories of what the realms should be looking like? And I won't go into super detail about the Doomed Forgotten Realms, but it's really awesome. Links down below to my review of that when it came out a while ago, and I'll put an affiliate link if you want to pick it up. But I recommend it not just to try and fix Vecna Eve of Ruin, but to just have it if you're a fan of the realms. It's really cool, and I think that would be really fun. So after that, the PCs are remembering the old world, and they're looking around kind of confused about the new one, and there are cult of Vecnas everywhere. So we're going to go with chapter 1. The PCs realize now that they don't belong here. They're in some kind of alternate Forgotten Realms, and they want to get back to where they were or change what's happening. They don't really know yet. So they're also apparently pretty high up in some Cult of Vecna. So they have Cult of Vecna minions that come to them and ask them like, oh, yes, sir, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? And so they get to kind of ask questions or find out information because they're in a position of power. They're generals in Neverwinter or something. Now, the cult members of Vecna that are living in the Doomed Forgotten Realms here, they're looking for the holy relics of the hand and eye of Vecna because they want to try and find them and return those back to Vecna so he can become more all-powerful deity than he already is. And there are clues as to their last whereabouts. And so that is a hook for the players to start following along and being like, okay, well, if Vecna caused this, maybe we should figure out why he wants this, or we can get to his hand and eye first, kind of a thing like that. Chapter 2. Now, the location where the eye and hand are supposed to be is false, but it does lead our players back to a familiar obelisk. So the cultists think that the obelisk is somehow in tune with the hand and the eye, but the PCs get here and they're like, hey, that was that weird obelisk that we found in insert adventure where you found the obelisk. This could be Rime of the Frost Maiden, any of the adventures that have the obelisk. I'll put my obelisk video down there. A lot of videos for you to catch up on in order to enjoy this one. I apologize. Now, hopefully, the PCs will interact with the obelisk in some way, and they will get echoes as they interact with it, where they'll remember, like, oh, not remember, but they'll see visions of, like, what Forgotten Realms used to be, and not this hellscape that it is now. And they realize that Vecna has cast some kind of spell involving these obelisks, or the magic tied to said obelisks, and with that, they are branching out and like, okay, well, maybe we can reverse it if we do that. So I want to replace the entire Rod of Seven Parts storyline or like fetch quest with obelisks. So instead of, once they attune with this first obelisk, they're going to be like, we have to find others to gather more of this magic and unravel more of this mystery. And then we'll figure out how to reverse it at some point. So the idea is that they're hunting obelisks, not Rod of Seven Parts fragments. So for the other chapters here, I think you can mostly keep them the same. Because if we just replace Rod Fragment with actually like finding a obelisk and attuning to it, then you get the magic of that obelisk, and now we know where to go for the next one, and you kind of can replace most of the hopping around to different areas by just getting to an obelisk rather than getting to a Rod of Seven Parts fragment. But you're going to go to a giant dead god's body and fight all the same things, find the obelisk, great. Chapter 4, Eberron, same thing. You come in here, you don't even need to call it Eberron. Like, it could just be like, we're in this misty, awful Mournland place. We don't know what it is, but there are huge things. And the people that know Eberron will get a nod of like, I think we're in Eberron. Did his magic reach this far? You know, did Vecna's spell actually change other settings? Like, that's huge. And so I think you could leave this relatively the same, but again, you're finding an obelisk rather and attuning to that obelisk rather than finding a rod fragment. Chapter 5, Barovia, which is Domain of Dread. So this one, a lot of people were frustrated this because Strahd was he just like handed over the rod fragment on like a charisma check. It seemed really lame, and it was a callback to Death House. I just wanted to rewrite this whole chapter. So I want to say this: we should, if we're flipping everything, if the Forgotten Realms is now the doomed Forgotten Realms, evil Domain of Dread Barovia, I want it to be normal Barovia. So I want this chapter to be Strahd before he is cursed. So the characters are taken to Barovia, but they're witnessing the creation of this Domain of Dread. They're witnessing the curse of Strahd actually taking place and happening. Strahd is still evil though, and the Vistani know that something odd has taken place because they're special and they're kind of they're out of the Barovia. They're out of the Domain of Dread settings, even though they're a part of it. And so I like that they could answer some questions like, something's not right. We're not really sure what's going on. And they do find out that the obelisk must be in Castle Ravenloft. So they go to Castle Ravenloft and they search around and they find the obelisk. He's actually down there staring at this obelisk, talking with the dark powers or with Vecna, and there's some connection there. And so they see him making a pact with the dark powers and becoming the vampire Strahd. All of Barovia suddenly changes, and now vampire Strahd attacks the players, and so you have to defeat Strahd in order to move on. Now, because it's Barovia and the dark powers and the domains of dread, killing Strahd does not free him of his curse. And as you guys are leaving, you see Barovia resetting itself so that Strahd can exist once again and that the curse can continue indefinitely. But you were there to see the original, the very first Curse of Strahd. I think that would be badass. Chapter 6 is Kryn. I didn't really have any big changes here. It didn't super bother me this chapter. You can go Dragonlance to your heart desire. It's just you're looking for an obelisk rather than a rod fragment. Attune to it, you're good. Chapter 7, Oerth. So no changes here, except the obelisk is at the end of the Tomb of Wayward Souls. And I would also put in this chapter that the players learn that in order to stop Vecna, like reversing the spell is one thing, but preventing Vecna from not casting it again, they're going to need a piece of Vecna. They're going to need to find either the hand or eye of Vecna or both of them. And through learning or something, I haven't really figured out how, but they learn that the eye of Vecna is on Oerth. And it could be a side adventure, or it could be part of the Tomb of Wayward Souls. And one of the treasures that happen to be there is the Eye of Vecna. And I think this gives some interesting bits, because if you gather the Eye of Vecna, you're like, okay, we have the Eye of Vecna. Am I going to use it? Does Vecna know that we have it? We need to keep it, but it's evil and it's trying to corrupt us, but like it's a necessary ingredient. There's a lot of like tug there, and I think that could be a really interesting part of the adventure. Which leads us to chapter 8, Avernus. So the party goes to Tiamat's lair for the final obelisk. You can run the adventure normal, but you need to include Arkhan the Cruel, who is the current owner of the Hand of Vecna. So I really like this idea. They find Arkhan the Cruel, the Hand of Vecna is attached to him. You need to fight him and possibly kill him or bargain him or wish spell something, but you got to do all of that, gamble to get the hand back, but you got to get the hand from him, and you attune to yet another obelisk. So chapter 9 is a mix of Sigil and the Doomed Forgotten Realms. They learn that the ritual was cast in Pandemonium in a place called the Cave of Shattered Reflection. So the players understand now that they've attuned to all of these different obelisks, they have the ritual in them to be able to undo what Vecna did, utilizing those obelisks that have been strategically placed by the Netherese, by the Spellweavers, what have you. They take the hand and eye to Pandemonium, and they're going to use Spellweaver magic against Vecna. Chapter 10, Pandemonium. Here is where Cass can be. So in this chapter, Cass is trying to open a portal. In the original chapter, Cass is trying to open a portal to free Miska the Wolf Spider, because he's fighting against Lulth and a bunch of spider people and drow and stuff. So instead of that, I want Cass has an army of demons and Lulth has an army of demons, and they're both fighting for maybe supremacy of the lair. And Cass is losing. And so this entire scene could be you eventually meet up with Cass. I think you can run the adventure relatively normal, but you eventually meet up with Cass and you say, hey, you're in this alternate world where you mean absolutely nothing and you're going to whatever. And he can spill the beans about like, well, Vecna can do this and this and this. And you can get a lot of information on how to approach Vecna, and you can get the Sword of Cass. Maybe you can bargain with it. Maybe you defeat Cass and take the Sword of Cass, because that is going to be vital in preventing Vecna from never casting this spell again. We've got the Hand and Eye of Vecna. We've got the Sword of Cass. Now we have all of the artifacts we need, but we need to perform this ritual first and then destroy Vecna using the tools that we have. Hand and Eye of Vecna and the Sword of Cass. So chapter 11, this is the final bit. The PCs descend into the Cave of Shattered Reflection, where Vecna ran the ritual of remaking. And Vecna at this point is very aware of the PCs. So a lot of the earlier stuff with all of the secrets, I think that can still work. I think you can still learn the secrets, and the secrets can give you power. But the more you take secrets, I think Vecna is learning more about you. And maybe you're getting weird dreams sent to you or something like that. Do a Potter Voldemort thing where you're kind of like seeing through the eyes of Vecna, the more of these obelisks that you touch and drain of their magic. And they get thrown to the different realities, much of like the Doomed Forgotten Realms. So they get a peek at all these different realities, and they have to break free of these traps in order to eventually find Vecna at the heart of this ritual. Then they fight Vecna. Use the Sword of Cass to obliterate the Hand and the Eye of Vecna and Vecna himself, and he gets shot out back into the multiverse. And it's at this point that you know he's lost the ability to do this ritual again, and that's when you reset the world back to normal. And at the very end, we cut to our PCs waking up exactly like they did on the very beginning of this adventure, and they're in their normal thing. Like, oh my gosh, we're back and everything's good to go. That's crazy. But I'm level 20 now. That's my fix for it. Like 11 chapters, My goal was put Vecna more in there, get rid of the Rata 7 parts, make it about the obelisks, put in the hand and eye of Vecna and make it like a meaningful thing to the party or to the adventure, and have a tangible problem to resolve. And that tangible problem is that the world is messed up. Vecna won, and we have to reverse that to go stop it. Like I said in my other video, I really want to like this, and I think after writing all of this, I got really excited, and I'm like, man, I would totally run this. This would be so cool. But I have so many other things to run, and I'm just not sure if I'm gonna get to this because it would take more work than I want to do to run this adventure. But starting an adventure in the Doomed Forgotten Realms seems really, really cool. So I kind of want to at the same time.
With a world-hopping adventure that both celebrates our 50-year history and reveals even deeper plots for years to come.
What did you guys think of my version of Vecna Eve of Ruin? Would you run it? Did you like it? Were there things you would change, things you would not change? Let me know down in the comments below, and I will put also in the not in the comments, but in the description below, I'll put the like Cliff Notes version that I was reading off of here on my screen of how I would fix it, so that you guys can follow along and have that, and maybe you'll do it. Let me know if you run it. That would be awesome. Thank you again, Describe, for sponsoring this video, and be sure to check out their new sound service called Opus. It's actually really, really great. And I know you could find all kinds of spooky sounds to add to your Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign. Whether that's pandemonium, blowing wind, or what have you, they have a lot of awesome stuff. It's a really fun soundboard. Let me know again in the comments below. And if you're interested in the entire path that we've taken to get here, I'll make a playlist and you guys can watch it from the very beginning of like, this is what I was thinking, this is kind of where it went, and now this is where we are. D&D 2024 is right around the corner. We'll see what stuff happens then. Until then, I'll see you all in the next video.
And plant new seeds for the future.